you doing?
Fred coming today?
He said he won't be here for 9 o'clock. He'll be here at 10:30. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we're now in the hands of our city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, June 22nd. We have approval of minutes from June the 15th. Appeals, we have requests for a waiver of the noise ordinance on July the 4th from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Charles Street. July 10th from 3 p.m. until 9 p.m. on Shenandoah Road West. July 17th from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. in Langen Park. July 2nd from 4 p.m. until 11 p.m. at the grounds. July 3rd and 4th from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Burtonwood Drive. July 10th from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. in Langen Park. And July 8th through the 9th from 7 p.m. until 12 a.m. at Cooper Riverside Park.
Mr. President, if I might,
Ms. Gregory?
there are a number of waivers for Langen Park and one for the grounds. I think we need to remind people in the community that since these are public spaces, people do tend to want to hold events like concerts, family reunions, that kind of thing. And the music may be a little louder than usual, but there is a certain time that they are supposed to close down, and we want to make sure that they do close down. One of the complaints that I get is not always about the music at the park. I think it's cars maybe driving through, or maybe they're parked or something, because people also complain about revving of engines, things like that. And we have thought in the past that maybe there was a car show out there, and that's why they were hearing that. So we just need to make sure that everybody understands that music, the amplified sound, we're giving you the waiver on, but it doesn't give you the option of also revving any car engines or doing anything else, and to be sure to shut down right when it says to shut down. And police will need to know that there is an event and they do have a waiver in case they get any calls.
Yes, ma'am. Any other commentary from members of the council relative to these appeals? Yes, ma'am.
Public hearings. Today is a public hearing to declare the structures at 460 Dexter Avenue, 56 South Lafayette Street, 1455 Lincoln Street, and 2118 Barron Place public nuisances and ordering them demolished. Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Mario Yao, regarding a citation that was given with regard to an oak tree hanging over his house. And Suzette Mason with regard to demolition of property owned by her mother or her.
What about this tree? Does somebody know something about it? Is Peter going to be here?
Peter's not going to be here.
Does somebody from the administration know the details of it?
Well, we know enough, but we want to hear what he has to say. We're not specifically sure what he's going to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the reasons that we asked them to sign up in advance is so that, and they have to leave contact information, is so that we kind of answer them maybe before they get here. And not that we don't want them here, but that the reason they're coming to us is because they've kind of lost, hope. And then maybe if we can restore hope before it gets here, it just looks a lot better. We can say that was settled before the meeting. Everybody's happy, and that boy I think that sends a good message. Thank you.
Ordinance is held over. 64026, ordinance to amend and restate Chapter 64 of the City Code zoning.
Where are we with this? I don't remember.
Well, we were supposed to have
Going
a
to have
meeting
another committee
Monday.
meeting of the whole.
Absolutely. I've been in receipt of communication from Ms. Shayla Jones-Bico the time that we originally established was not the best time for her or our staff. She sent me 2 dates that I will disseminate to members of the council and check with Ms. Cochran to make certain that they work, and hopefully between now and 10:30, we'll have a date and time for that particular next meeting.
Another, how long?
I think we ought to lay it over at least probably 30 days in order to have the second meeting and any other hearing we might need to have, and hopefully be in a position to move forward.
Changes, tweaking we need to do.
But I'm open.
Before we advertise. That would be smart. Do we have a date for what, I guess 4 council meetings would be?
Madam City Clerk, what date would that be?
20th.
4 weeks from now.
July 20th.
That would work for me, if that's the consensus of the group. Mr. Williams? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Would the idea be to how far in advance of the meeting does the advertisement have to occur?
For, what, a public hearing?
3 weeks of
Oh.
advertising, is it?
Yes.
Like a zoning
It's
thing?
going to be 4 weeks.
4 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, and that would be for the public hearing, because whatever we have at the public hearing is what we would hope to have ready to vote on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if we need more time, I'm absolutely open.
Well, I guess we'll know after we have this next committee meeting, see where
Okay.
we are.
But why don't we just hold it over for 2 weeks? And that'll give us time to have the committee meeting, and then we'll be in a better position to decide after that whether and how long it gets held over again.
That's fine with me.
All right, so make it July 6th.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So we're having a committee meeting next week sometime? Are those the dates that were given to you?
Yes, ma'am. It
Okay, 'cause
will
we've
be
already
next week,
had-
both dates.
We've already had the report and information from the department. I thought the next meeting was the attorney that we hired to go over certain nuances.
Well, it is, but we certainly want
Oh, I
Ms.
don't
Jones
ha- no, no.
Biko to be here and her
No, I
staff.
don't have any problem with that, but I'm trying to get this, so is the meeting, are any of those 2 dates that you're gonna send to us next week?
Both of them are next week. Both of them are next week. And as soon as we can adjourn this particular meeting, we'll get it settled so that we can announce it at 10:30.
So if we meet next week and there's any changes we want to give, we would still have time for the July 6th meeting to then have something that we want to advertise? Is that enough timing?
Mr. Attorney, is that enough time?
Well, I think the idea is to have the meeting
Yes.
with Ms. Cochran.
Yes.
At which Ms. Biko can come, and then see where we are about scheduling it for a final disposition.
It depends on what the changes are gonna be, see how
Right.
long it's gonna take.
Of course, there may not be any changes at all. We'll just have to see.
Yeah. And then if it lays over for 2 weeks, if we have to, lay it over again if
Right, right.
if we are not ready.
Madam City Clerk.
Consent resolutions held over. 4379, declare the structure at 962 Government Street a public nuisance and order it demolished.
What we got there?
Well, I'm hopeful someone will be here with some great news for this particular building at 10:30.
So we'll just wait for that?
All right.
Okay. All right, I
Be
thought maybe you
prepared.
had a heads up on that.
962 Government.
Resolutions held over. 08443, approved purchase order to Beard Equipment Company for 2 mowers 08444, approve item-based bid for recreational items for the Recreation Department. 08445, approve purchase order for unleaded fuel. 08446, approve purchase order to Cobblentz Equipment and Parts for slope mower for motor pool. 08447, approve purchase order to Samsung Equipment for repairs to garbage truck lifting arm. 08448, approve purchase order to CDW Government for network switches and power supplies for information technology. 08449, approve purchase order to UAV Survey LLC for add-on equipment for enhancement of existing UAV survey equipment for the Police Cyber Division. 08450, approve purchase order to Gladiator Forensics for annual license renewal for forensic software for the Police Cyber Division. 09451, reallocate monies from the Police Department operating account to the Capital Improvement Fund for the purchase of furnishings for the new police precinct on DIP. 09452, allocate monies from the Stormwater Fund to various stormwater management projects.
Can we discuss this in more detail with the administration as to what projects? When I went back and looked at the ordinance that we created for the fee, it was to be education, things that were citywide for us, mostly meeting the needs of the MS4 permitting. So how were these selected, and were these programs already programs that are being constructed now that ran over based on how things are going along today?
Bless you.
I'm going to let Nick's got the details on each project.
Yes, so as you know, we've had the stormwater fee for a few years now, and the first few years of it, it was primarily focused on equipment purchases to help anything stormwater related. A lot of equipment was purchased for public works. We've now tried to transition to funding more of capital projects. So off the top, 5% has to go to the state. Unfortunately, they get a cut of it.
Right.
The Osprey contract, which is litter removal on
Yeah, that's a good one.
12 Mile, 3 Mile, and Dog River. That's a funding part of it. The council previously approved that earlier in the year. There's a large portion of it going to the Texas Street project that'll deal with the stormwater component of that project.
Didn't we let go contracts for, haven't we already let go contracts for?
We've let go the contract, but with almost every project that we've let in recent months, they've all had significant overruns over the budgeted amount. So the shortfall here was $480,000 on top of a large MOS participation of almost $2 million, and then a pay-go of about $3.5 million. So mainly what this ultimately is, the gap that it's closing is all the support contracts, but it's all basically a stormwater project because we're rebuilding the drainage system. The other project that's included there is Woodcock Creek Drainage. That's the ditch project about the police station. There's a supplement that we put towards the Tiger.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that's almost half of.
Yeah, so it's basically addressing the drainage system. I mean, most of these projects that are these rebuild projects, that's a large component of what's being done. We can make it look pretty on top, but if we don't fix the underlying infrastructure, we really haven't accomplished much. So
what, okay, this is from MLK. I'm not sure exactly which portion of the Tiger grant this is.
Right, that's one leg. The overall Tiger grant consists of the loop around Broad Street, and then Broad Street on out to I-10, and then the MLK leg of it. This is for the MLK leg of it.
So is this a new portion of build, or was it submitted as part of the Tiger grant that was $14 million?
I think on the third application of the Tiger grant, this was an additive to it. So but it's part of the overall project. When we say Tiger grant,
So the $14 million didn't cover.
no, unfortunately, no, it did not.
Is there more of that to go on?
Well, there's the MLK leg to be constructed, or that's in a design phase now, and then there's picking up from the roundabout onto I-10. That's the remaining leg.
This portion was not part of the 14 million, was never part of the 14 million.
It was. I mean, and all I can tell you is that probably 8 years ago when these projects were conceived to where we are now. We lived through, hopefully on the tail end of a pandemic, a construction industry that can't hire, material shortages across the board.
Yeah.
Nobody can anticipate any of those things
Okay,
at the
I
time.
understand that. And you're saying this million on this portion of it is strictly to meet MS4?
Is to deal with the drainage system, that's
So
correct.
it's not the asphalting? or
No,
anything
it'll be
like that?
primarily for the drainage system and.
not the road bed?
Anything that's conveying water, basically. Anything that's conveying water. Then Ashland Place is another one where there's been, complaints, for numerous years, where we have been able to look in that drainage system and actually see maws, sewer mains running through it. So we're gonna try to do a deep engineering look to figure out how to get those out, how to get another.
That's just the design? So
This
you
is-
think
this
that's
is
a $2
design and
million
investigation.
project, in your opinion? That's like a $2 million project
You-
when you
you-
get ready to do it?
I just don't know. I mean, it could be upwards of 5 or 6. I mean, it's just these streets.
Oh, I
they're
thought 200 meant it was that
200 is
10%
just
for
the design. It'll probably be some destructive surveying in order to get down through the concrete to actually see where some of the pipes are. The biggest challenge is getting another pipe across Spring Hill Avenue, to which there's a large water main that runs along the road, and actually where its depth is. You kind of have to think about in between Spring Hill Avenue and Old Shell Road, many of the neighborhoods in between there, it's a bowl, it's a trough. If you went back and pulled the roads away and the houses, you would see a topography that's just got a little bit of a bowl in there. And so unfortunately, those drainage systems water gets captured in them. So it's to try to do a deep dive to see if the sewer lines come out of it, is the system adequate in its size, or does the whole thing need to be replaced? And how can we get get a better outfall across Spring Hill Avenue?
And the McNally dredging,
Yeah.
how is that?
Again, that's a project, actually, we opened bids on it today. We're anticipating the bids coming in probably a little bit higher than the monies that have already previously been allocated. And so that's, just anticipating an overrun there.
And so your office handled looking at how much resource there was, and you created the list back?
It's a mix. I mean, it's a mix of my office handling a lot of the capital projects, programs and projects management with the Tiger and some of those. We certainly work with Public Works to get their input on equipment. We've gone through 2 or 3 iterations of this. Obviously we want something that's palatable to everybody. We could spend every bit of it in projects. We could spend every bit of it in equipment, or we could spend every bit of it in maintenance of cleanup contracts. So we have tried to spread it around and do the most good.
Businesses and residents all contribute, that's how the
That's
funds
correct.
are organized. Was there any thought to look at every district to see whether there was something that would fit? And is there any resource left in the funding, or just this drain the funding?
Yeah, there's a projected reserve of $200,000. Obviously, when these monies come in, they're going into a fund, so just only as they come in, as they come in sometime generally around between April and this time of the year, we ask for the distribution to be made to specific projects. So there's probably a little bit, but we do need to keep a reserve, in case something else comes up that has to be dealt with. We look at where the needs are, and that's,
And when you report who does the MS4 reporting to ADEM?
that's the environmental side of my office.
Rosemary.
Yeah, Rosemary Sawyer. There's an annual MS4 permit is a
Right.
5-year permit, to which every year we send in annual updates. And they report things like this, that this is part of our program to address all things MS4.
The last thing I'll say, and just to kind of in summary, as Nick alluded to, when we first did the draft of this, we anticipated perhaps getting a couple additional pieces of equipment, but based on the magnitude of the projects we had, the cost increases that we weren't anticipating, we knew it would be better to use this money not to purchase another street sweeper today, but to augment those projects with the funding needed to make sure that the drainage systems were able to get done. Because as you know, some of the biggest challenges.
How many street sweepers do we have in the city? Do we know?
About 8, I think, 8 right now.
They all working?
They're all working. The challenge is we don't have enough staff to run them all currently, so staffing is the problem. So it didn't make sense to buy another sweeper if I didn't have the staff to run the ones we have today.
And what about any kind of education component? Because that was one of the things that.
We put
talked
education in
about.
last year's, in the last year allocation, and I believe, I'd have to check with Rosemary, I think there's still some money available on that, so that was in last year's. So we thought this year, and my focus was to focus on the projects and the flooding challenges we have, which I think the citizens and the businesses would probably appreciate most, that the stormwater fee is going to address these flooding challenges, the kind of flash-type flooding that we get with our big rain events. So that's what
And
this...
how does the Tiger phase for the a little over $1 million?
Same thing, it's all handling, as Nick stated earlier, it's all handling the water conveyance through that project. It's all, that funding source is going to a much bigger cost for that leg.
What does 3MC stand for?
3 Mile Creek.
3 Mile Creek,
Yeah.
I see. Okay, I was just thinking that it would be spread around to every district to have something, because the whole idea was for everyone to see an improvement with their contribution.
We'd have to look at watersheds. I'm not sure that anything from District 6 necessarily goes through these, well, actually they do. Probably some of the stuff with Dog River ends up going through there. So it is. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, some of it does. And in future years, there very well could be projects that are in other districts. I mean, again, we had to focus on projects that were before us now
Right.
that were the most need.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President.
Colonel, did I understand correctly that you said that we have like street sweepers, but we just don't have enough employees to run them?
Last I heard, there was a couple of assets that still needed some employees, so yes. I mean, we can put employees on them, but we don't have full-time dedicated currently. There's some gaps in personnel hiring that we've had in across all of our departments because of the challenges. Hiring today is very, very difficult anywhere, and that's no exception. And so we have people, when we need to run them all, we can run them all, but we don't have solely dedicated 8 crews just to the sweepers today. There's some people who do multiple things on a couple of the assets. We do have folks that are assigned to them full-time, and then we have other folks that augment in. So Mr. Peavy's working on obviously hiring those folks so that they can have full dedicated folks and run them all the time. But it didn't make sense to buy another sweeper if we were still challenged in getting people to, hired people to fully man the ones that we've got.
Yeah, I do understand that it has been a challenge with hiring in the last several months, but my phone ring at least once a week about citizens talking about a street sweeper coming through their neighborhood and they haven't seen one in months. It's something that this council can do, as we have done before, was to hold a job fair. Let us know. I'm sure that citizens would probably cough up to just get a street sweeper to come through their neighborhoods, But
We encourage people all the time. The personnel board, most of these positions are open, continuous open positions. We would encourage people to apply at all times to all open positions in the personnel board. We sometimes get people who come on and unfortunately don't make it past, a week, a month, or the working test period. So some folks just aren't qualified or capable to continue the work, or may just decide that it's not for them and quit. And we've had, we get some folks that come in, and then I get a lot that are leaving within 30 days.
So the personnel board is advertising street sweepers?
We have a lot of, there's probably 40, 50 vacancies out there on the personnel board. I'd have to go back and look specifically on that one, but I'm fairly confident, because I think that specific job title it's I think maybe a public service worker type, or there's a category. I don't know if it's officially street sweeper operator. It's probably a more generic one that they use, and then train the person on that piece of equipment.
You have my word that I will try my best to help with that situation.
That's great. I appreciate it. Yeah, anything you can do to encourage folks, that, especially quality folks, to apply for any of these open positions, we would greatly appreciate it.
If it's possible, and I guess we could just go on the personnel board, but if we can just get a list, if I have to do, send out letters to the churches in my district and throughout, some cities, encourage this, I will. I will see what we can get a list and everything.
Thanks.
You can just email to all the councils. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
I agree with my colleague, Councilman Small. I too get requests from people throughout the district all the time about a street sweeper, and they basically say the same thing. We haven't seen one in our neighborhood years or, whatever. So we do hear the same sort of things, and people do like to see that street sweeper out there. So I too am more than willing to put out the information. If you all give it to us, we'll put it in our newsletters, send it out. I have a district meeting coming up July 6th, so maybe that would be something that we can talk about there and provide people with information about how to apply and what kind of jobs are available. So I think we're all on board to try to help with that.
Mr. President, if I may, I know the work that's going on Perch Creek and McNally Park and the need for doing that dredging to enhance that already huge project. But since Mayor's first week in office, it was a long time ago, I will just say that I have been asking regularly for a dredging of the North Canal and Cypress Shores. Not as a fancy a project, probably not going to have any ribbon cuttings or grand openings. But since their annexation, they have been waiting for that city drainage to be dredged. And we've come up with all kind of excuses. Got to have a place to put the spoil. We found a place to put the spoil. Well, now it's environmental. We got to get a permit. Well, it's just something all the time. And I don't know that there's been a single project in the 15 years, almost 15 years that I've been in office, that I have asked for more and received less. And I'm not trying to point fingers anywhere. I just want for those folks on Cypress Shores North to get what they're due. And it's a fairly simple project if done properly. If recklessly, we've already seen what can happen. And I know Nick's up there shaking his head. Nick and I rode on his boat down through there. I have met and walked every inch of that piece of land, and the mayor's had no less than 3 people at the site. I know that everyone is aware. We've just got to find an answer, especially when we're dumping city water at the quantity that we are at North Canal, Cypress Shores. Thank you.
21453 and 454, authorizing contracts with Renisha Jones and Alina Olger for cyber specialist services in the Gulf Coast Technology Center. 35455, authorized lease agreement with the Parkway Center for Mobile Police First Precinct. 456, approve order special bonus to the officer of the month for May. 457, 458, and 459 are approving settlement of and release of claims. Consent resolutions being introduced for the first time. 37462, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for DIP Food Mart on Dolphin Island Parkway. 37463, recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Discount Zone on Azalea Road. 464, 465, 466, 467 are declaring the structures public nuisances and ordering them demolished. 58, 468, and 469 are assessing costs for removal of weeds, weed lien group 1610 and 1611. 6470, determine an appropriation. 6470 and 471 are determining appropriations to Booker T. Washington Middle School and Cottage Hill Athletic Association serve public purpose and approve payment. 46472, give Lexington Avenue the honorary designation of A.J. Stokes Avenue. We're adding one. This is 47481. Recommend approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a special events retail license for Lit Cigar Lounge for Saturdays at the Coop on June 26th.
Mr. President,
July 26th.
I'd like to go back to 37463 and ask that one be held over for a week.
Which one?
37463.
Oh, the ABC?
Yes,
1 week holdover?
1 week. It just needs to not be,
Yeah, I could call it out.
yeah, right.
CIP resolutions being introduced. 01473, authorize a cooperative agreement with ALDOT for traffic signal maintenance and operation program, $500,000. 01474, authorize a purchase and sale agreement and accept deed for approximately 31 acres located along Dolphin Island Parkway in Mobile Bay, $127,000.
Mr. President,
Mr. Riceberry.
thank you. I'd like to remind the council that this was brought to our attention probably a couple of years ago. If y'all remember that we said that it was going to be a beach in District 3. This is the same property that was brought, that was discussed a couple of years ago. You might have received a lot of emails for people with support. There is two sisters that's down on DIP. It say there's a conspiracy going on with government with DIP. And so they started a Facebook post and it just went viral a little bit. But overmajority citizens DIP want some light shed upon that area, while you have a few people that are trying to keep things dead, in that particular area. But this is a great project that's going forth. This will bring connectivity among several parts within the South DIP, along with the nature trail. And it's a great thing that is going on, especially when you get to the final phase. And again, with the emails that you all received, the citizens down there is in great support of this project going forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Riceberry.
Do we know where the funds are coming from? Is that from things we sold, and then when we purchased, we used that funding source?
Majority of it came out of mine CIP money was designated for this, I think it was last year or the year before, I can't remember.
But it's CIP money?
Yes.
It's not, okay. I thought maybe it was money that we got when we sold what we didn't want. Okay. Thank you.
Resolutions being introduced for the first time. 09475, reallocate $52,328 from various capital projects to fire training facility rehab project. 09476, reallocate $260,000 from EMS regular pay to the fire training facility rehab project. 09477, reallocate $460,000 from fire suppression overtime and regular pay to fire training facility rehab project. 09478, reallocate $138,600 from fire suppression uniforms to the fire training facility rehab project. 09479, reallocate $68,500 from EMS operating supplies to capital fire administration projects. 31480, authorize grant application to the U.S. Department of Justice for the fiscal year 21 Bulletproof Vest Partnership, $5,380, and the match is $2,690.
And, Mr. President, since we're not allocating, or we're not approving any contracts with this, it's just moving money from one place to another, it would be my recommendation that we take 09475 through 79 and move them either into consent or do a motion for suspension of the rules.
I concur.
That's good.
Yep.
Fine with me.
Call for public hearings. 41461, call for public hearing to consider the vacation of a portion of Pearl Street, Lion Street, Hospital Street, and Basil Street, scheduled July 27th.
It brought to my attention that this item has been
Withdrawn.
withdrawn, and so our attorney has suggested that we table this particular item, and we'll do that at our regular meeting.
Announcements.
Any announcements from members of the council? Mr. Mayor? Any announcements? All righty, well, we'll see each other at 10:30. Thank you.
Why can't I find a copy of the UDC online?